There is something very wrong going on. Australians, you're not crazy. This one's to the people of Lismore. You're not crazy, okay? I saw a video from someone in Lismore saying that Byron Bay used to be a little bit more working class, and then they become a tourist mecca, and then now there's multi-million-dollar houses bought by rich people, and it's completely destroyed the neighbouring markets, which in a more recent flood like happened to Lismore, the government's supposedly buying all their houses, and all those people are just, they're stuffed. People of Lismore, you're not crazy. You're not crazy. This face you're looking at is an intrepid traveller and has been to every state but WA and Tasmania over the last 10 years. And honest to fucking goodness, you're not crazy. The people in the inner city, Melbourne type of characters, would have noticed about 20 years ago, roughly, gentrification started. Okay, so those old terrace houses, built, all those buildings from the 1920s, basically, got gentrified and updated. And over the course of time, what used to be, the slums of the inner city, good bohemian hotspots for artists and socialists and anarchists and, and troublemakers also, and the queer community also, over the course of time became unaffordable. Even 20 years ago, it was unaffordable. In Sydney, for example, a studio apartment, which was basically a room that had been subdivided from a terrace house, a very small room, often with black mould in it, and a leaky roof. For rent was about the same price as a 2 or 3 bedroom villa at the western suburbs. Within about 5 years after that, the rents doubled, in part due to gentrification, and the rents also doubled in Western Sydney as well. Nowadays, there are 2 or 3 bedroom houses, small houses, in Western Sydney that are going for $600 a week. Meanwhile, the income for most people is still less than $50,000 per annum, and the poverty line is still classified as about $25,000 to $30,000 a year. So if you're getting $18,000 to $20,000 on the DSP, you're definitely below the poverty line or just on it. And if you're a new start, you haven't got a fucking chance. And if you're part-time or casual worker, which describes a lot of people, then you're screwed. There are stories in Sydney of people earning $70,000 a year who are living in their cars because they can't afford the rent. Imagine, the standard used to be, well, the pension's not very much, it's no good. The pensioners will get the cheaper house or apartment, live in a small place, wait 20 years for social housing if it ever comes, and, they can't expect much. They live a poor life, live on black and gold, tinned food and home brand, maybe go down to the soup kitchen, and that'd be it. Then the standard became the people in the DSB New Start can't afford a rental, they must live in a boarding house. And the boarding house became unaffordable. Then the standard became the people in New Start and DSP can't live anywhere at all, except maybe a caravan park. And then the standard became they can't live there, and they have to live in a tent. And then the standard became, well, maybe they can live in a boarding house in the middle of fucking whoop whoop. And even that is not affordable for people in the DSP, let alone New Start. So while that standard is happening, okay, and people like that are hearing that in the big cities in Australia, you've got people living in their cars while they're earning $70,000 a year because rent's unaffordable. Wow. Just fucking wow. Okay? It has never been the standard for a social democracy that has things like pensions for people with jobs to be homeless. That's not the standard. The standard is if you have a job, particularly a full-time job, which $70,000 a year implies, that you should have a place to live. The standard is that people pay taxes for a Department of Housing so that people who are falling through the cracks and really can't get a job, you know, people with disabilities or something like that, old people, stuff like that, can get social housing. And the complaint was is the wait lists were too long or something like that. So that was supposed to be improved. It never was. Okay, this is not the standard. This is not the standard that was set up by the Social Democrats from Australian political history. This is not the standard. It is not the standard in a major city. It is not the standard in a country town. And yet that is the standard that people have been asked to live by. And it's disgusting. And we don't care which political party is doing it. You've both fucked up. You've all fucked up. So, and if you think Clive Palmer's going to solve that, think again. Because let's look at the background of this. What they'll try and tell you is Trump-type ideas, which Palmer is going to, has outright said he supports. The immigrants caused it, apparently. No. The immigrants did not cause it. When there was a mass flux of immigrants in the 60s and the 1950s, from the people who escaped Hitler and Mussolini, and with the Cambodians, Pol Pot, and so on and so forth, the Argentines escaping Pinochet, and whatever else, the 10-pound bombs that escaped the Blitzkrieg, all of the above, when those influx of migrants happened, okay, it did increase the price of property, but it also increased the number of properties. As construction happened, as industries improved, as there were small to medium enterprises that families were running, you know, like your good old Maltese friend with the pastizzi shop, or your Greek friend that was running running, running the fruiter, Con the fruiterer came, opened the fruit shop, so on and so forth. When the Vietnamese came after the Vietnam War, same story, they contributed as well. There's been a long history of people being happy that migrants have contributed to the economy, that they've brought skills and businesses and jobs that started. Okay. What's actually happened though, since the 1980s in particular, is called corporatisation. Okay? So small mum and dad businesses are just not a thing anymore. They have to compete stylistically and otherwise with corporate megaliths, many of them which came from the USA. You know, Macca's and KFC started to replace the local fish and chip shop, and so on and so forth. And while that's going on, that's the real migration problem we've had to worry about. The corporations. the billionaires and the corporations. That's what we've had to worry about. And the same migrants that arrived in the 50s, 60s and 70s and so on, and 1980s, and 1990s, and more recently, are just ordinary people who were ripped off in the country they came from, again, by corporations, and came to a country that was being ripped off by corporations. And so there is an issue there of no matter what background you have, whether you're earning $70,000 a year or not, affording a rental property has become unaffordable. And one of the things that people have noticed is how many places have empty houses. So there's the number of houses in Australia apparently are plentiful. There's enough to go around. They don't even have to build new ones. They have to renovate a whole bunch of them, obviously, but they don't have to build new ones. And by renovate, we don't mean gentrify and make ready for Airbnbs. We're not running a Gordon Ramsay reality TV show here. We're just talking about get rid of the fucking mould and patch the ceiling up. And maybe the toilet needs replacing because it looks like it's about 40 years old. Other than that, not a lot. Okay? There is no shortage of houses in Australia. There are literally numerous, if not many, country towns where, if you know your history, in the late 1970s, there was the flood to the cities. All these regional centres, an almost entire generation of boomers left and went to the cities in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Adelaide, and went there for work. They went there for work because traditional employment in the country towns were drying up and there was increasing opportunities in the city, so they went there for the opportunities. So those migrants didn't stop them from getting jobs. Those migrants helped them get jobs. And they improved their life, and many of them, when they retired, went back to their town of origin, okay, and they found, what they find? It was being gentrified. It was being turned into a tourist mecca. It was, as Drama Queen put it, starting to look like a hospital. Those beautiful little cafeterias and fish and chip shops, old Chinese restaurants, you name it, had started to become black and grey and steel and glass with words like gourmet and boutique. You couldn't just have your traditional sausage roll anymore. It was a gourmet sausage roll with Wagyu beef and a little bit of this and that. Your choice might seem to be between the mum and dad restaurant being gourmet and boutique and au fait, or Macca's. This is not affordable. This is not a successful business model. This is relying on the assumption that everyone with $70,000 a year can afford to have their 4 years annual leave and go and spend their tourist fucking money and then get ripped off for it. Rip off every tourist that comes through. Rip the tourist off. They're terrorists anyway. All them houses that all them poor people should be living in are Airbnbs. Or they're straight up empty. Or they're being gentrified. Not just Byron Bay, but in places around Australia. and perhaps even the world, because that's the trend. That's what the market's saying. But the market is not responding to people's needs. The market is destroying itself. Because all of those people in the big cities that moved there in the 80s from the country towns and from overseas as migrants are leaving. They're either going back to the country that they came from, or they're going back to the town that they came from. And the descendants are wandering around aimlessly in the big cities and around the fucking continent looking for housing that isn't there, that doesn't exist, looking for jobs that isn't there, because the workforce is casualised. You can have 2 degrees, 3 degrees, a doctorate. You can have experience, a high IQ, a good work ethic. All these things and more will not get you that nice little office job in the city. And even if it did, it will not pay your rent, let alone get you a mortgage. And so, unsurprisingly, those that made the big biggies really quickly started buying up the Byron Bays of the world, started buying up the Nooses of the world, and saying, Tourist Mecca is an upwardly social mobile place. It's trendy. Isn't it stylish and it's nice? Oh, it's so beautiful. It's a great place to have your second or third holiday home. Isn't that lovely? And so now we definitely have 110% a two-tier society of massive haves and massive have-nots. And amongst those have-nots are people who are working. Not just people who are ex-cons, or people with disabilities, or people who are aged, or people who are disadvantaged for whatever reason. No, people who are from the in-group. The white, Christian, upper lower class men. They aren't getting jobs anymore, and if they are, it's not paying the rent. They can't get a mortgage. They're living out of their cars. They're going to the gym to bathe in the morning. They go to the gourmet cafe to have their latte and their quinoa wrap with kale, and then they go to work. And they wonder why they're doing it. Because a job is meant to pay for your dinner, put a roof over your head, and so on and so forth. What's the point of any of these people putting the effort in if you'll be just as fucking screwed if you're on the dole? If you're on the dole, you'll be just as fucking screwed. Okay? Oh, they can afford to go to the gourmet cafe. They can afford to share at the gym. So they have access to food and a shower then, do they? This segregation is in front of us, and it's coming in the form of commodification. This is becoming genuinely disturbing. It needs to be asked as a genuine question. Okay. This is for mob out there. Can you answer this question, please? About if this is a concern that you're having. The Deadly Choices t-shirts. Okay? On one hand, it's nice that there's a bit of visibility going on, if that makes any sense. People aren't being hit on the mish, basically. This is great. Okay? But on the other hand, there's something about the situation that feels a little bit like segregation. Like, wear your uniform, black fella, so everyone knows that you're a black fella. So we can catch you while driving while black. It's got that vibe to it. And that's a bit of a worry. If it is in fact the case that there has been a genuine voluntary decision made by a mob for that to happen, right, and they're not being pushed into it by commodifying market forces, then you go, okay, that's fine. That's their personal decision. That's their deadly choice even. However, if you're being cynical about capitalism for whatever reason, and there's a huge list to go with here, or corporatization, even if you're pro-capitalist, this corporatization stuff is getting a bit on the fucking nose. Okay, it really is getting on the nose. And like, you know, you've got St. Patrick's Day trademark, for fuck's sake. You've got Corey Incorporated and St. Patrick's Day trademark. You've got Cornish pasty copyright. Now updated gourmet variety with Wagyu beef. Why would you have that boring home brand tomato sauce from Woolies when you could have tomato relish and chutney, home style, produced by Buddhist monks in Tibet? Like, come on! Okay, come on. Okay? Povo food is its own fucking culture, mate. It really fucking is, okay? What happened to the $3 or $2, chunky chips put in the fryer in the fish and chip shop into butcher's paper with a little bit of fucking vinegar and tomato sauce? Okay? Where did that go? Oh, you want to be a racist and you want to be a fascist and you want to support Donald Trump, do you? And say it got replaced by the Chinese restaurant or the Vietnamese restaurant? Get fucked. No, it got replaced by Macca's. You can't go to Macca's. Oh, Macca's. People went to Macca's first because it was cheaper, wasn't it? You can get $1.50 fries from Macca's back then. This is 30 years ago or something like that. 40 years ago. Have you seen Macca's now? Macca's is gourmet. Macca's has gourmet wraps. You can even get a latte there. That's like... Is the market having a Lindibus? Are they having a Lindibus? Okay, it's nice to be able to get a coffee on the go. It's nice to be able to get a coffee even for $2 at the service station. If you're poor, honestly, if you are dead set fucking poor and you are travelling and it's a cold night and there's a 24-hour survey nearby with a $2 coffee in it, you fucking love them. Okay? You need it at that point. That's not what they're doing here in this greatest story. Okay? They are trying to take away, just like Drama Queen said, she's not just talking about a stylistic issue. Okay? Like, she's really hit on something possibly without realising just how big a thing it is. How big the thing is behind it. Okay? It's called commodification, gentrification, corporatisation. Okay, it is connected up to the housing crisis. It's connected up to the unemployment crisis. It's connected up to all of those things. That stylistic thing that she's seeing, that architectural shift that she's seeing, isn't just an architectural shift. It is the visual representation of a greater market force situation, which has international little plugs here and there. And its job is to push people away from each other using the same standard fucking tropes it always did. Hitler shit. It's because of someone's race. It's because of someone's gender. They took our jobs. Okay? Which is crap. Okay? It's crap. Okay? Black fella didn't take your fucking job. Asian fella didn't take your fucking job. What fella didn't take your fucking job? You didn't have a job in the fucking first place because the market said you didn't. You didn't have a house in the first place because the market said you didn't. And if you think anyone in Canberra or your state parliament or your local council is responsive to you, think again. They're not. They're responsive to the market. Because as you would know by now, okay, the Republican Party was bought out in about 1980 under Reagan by the Heritage Foundation. So there's these fake foundations and fake charities acting as lobby groups behind the political parties to make them do the corporation's fucking bidding. And as Juice Media has recently revealed, you guessed it, Australian political parties have the same fucking thing. So if you want to turn and say, oh, that minor party doesn't have it, you're forgetting that the person running that minor party, like Clive Palmer, is in fact one of the people that owns those foundations. So he's trying to have you both ways. And you can ignore that fucking dickhead if you've got any fucking sense. Particularly if he's trying to say he's fucking Trump wannabe. Okay, he's not making it fucking obvious that he can't be trusted by now. Don't know when he's going to. So, has any political party in Australia offered to put a rental cap across the entire continent for the next 5 years? A moratorium on rents. Drop the rents by 20% nationally. Every single property. Put a cap on it for the next 5 years. No rental increases for 5 years. Drop prices by 20%. Cap it. That's it. If there's any loss in terms of debts, mortgages, or whatever, okay, those that are affected get a tax cut. You're not affected, you don't. Just do that. Just for 5 years. Stabilise the fucking market. Stabilise the market. And drop it. That one thing. ALP vote for that? Nah. Lib nuts, they never fucking would. That sounds like caring for the poor. And by the way, the ALP, they used to be about caring for the poor, but they haven't been since about 1990. Anyway, so... Oh, is Pauline Hanson going to do it? Oh, no, she's not going to do it because it's the immigrants' fault. She's not going to do it because Aboriginality is an industry, remember? Identical choice is a trademark, okay, which means they're trying to rip you off as opposed to they're being given a fucking star on their lapel like they're fucking Jews in fucking, 1943. Leave them alone. Don't touch them. Okay? A symbolic segregation of people, okay, is if they want that, and it is in fact their deadly choice, then let them have that. But if it's not, then don't. The sort of dog whistling that Pauline Hanson is capable of will tell you that there is no disadvantage. Are you kidding? Yeah. Mob be totally, fucking, given an advantage, like, wearing the star on the lapel in the fucking ghetto. Pauline Hanson won't go in there and fucking fix the pipes. Pauline Hanson won't restructure the whole fucking market so that everyone else can have a balance, and so can they. Pauline Hanson won't change her dog whistling fucking attitudes, which leads to discrimination. Pauline Hanson would assume that this is a white face. Heck, there are black people that would too. Actually, it's not. This is a mixed face. Okay? And so big is the discrimination in Australian history that one of his physical body's ancestors, brothers, was murdered on the goldfields for being black. Or wait, no, clarify this. The ancestor in question and his brother were black and they came from Taranaki. They were Pakeha Maoris, okay? And it just so happened that one of them knocked up a white Sheila. And they got married. And, you know, because that's what happens. And the brother got murdered because he was copping the horde and don't touch that one, he's a dad type of thing. And then he's had to do a runner anyway, so he doesn't get killed. And then the mother, the ancestral mother, in this case, like, this is a great-great-grandmother, okay, has had to change town, and the two kids that came from that marriage had to pass as white and have white stepfathers and white half-siblings, okay? And they never spoke of that again, okay? This is something that's happened in Australian history. There's people who are Celtic Aboriginal who look whiter than this. Canoe's actually met Aboriginal people who are whiter looking than this. And they know they're Aboriginal because their dad was Aboriginal and their mum was, you know, blonde hair with blue eyes or something like that. And they just looked like mum. Okay? So, oh, she looks like she's French or something like that. Well, yeah, there's French ancestry too, so get stuffed. Anyway, like, you know, seriously. The reason why that's important is because this visibility thing, the visibility thing is a YouTube thing too. Okay? Airing your dirty laundry thing. Okay? Is what they used to call it. They used to call it airing your dirty laundry. Okay? Okay? Oh, physical body, one of the ancestors, was, you know, was killed due to miscegenation. Or more specifically, their brother was. Okay? That's a great fucking motive to be honest about any future or side relation, people on the side. Another, there's black cousins who were the consequence of sharing an ancestor who, in their first marriage, was married to an Aboriginal person, but then the White Australia policy happened, and they had to get divorced. Okay? And then they weren't allowed to talk about that. So it's like Ellen Reese was like that person is literally a dead ringer for a near relative. Identical in appearance except for skin colour, even has the same surname. But no one was allowed to talk about that. It wasn't the family that was hiding it. It was the system. And this is going back 3 or 4 generations back. All it takes is one ancestor not tell the next generation and then no one knows. Australia is full of stories like that. For all we know, Pauline Hanson's Chinese. Okay? Those people that dog whistle based on immigration deaths or black fella fucking that are talking absolute goddamn shit. They are shills for the corporations. The same corporations that are variations on the East India Company theme. Variations on the Medicis. Variations on the aristocracies. It's the same fucking crap. Different arsehole, different day. And when they talk to you about your gender and your fucking race as being what's at fault, as opposed to your ideology or your worldview being an internalisation of their toxic, dog-whistling shit, then you are being gaslit. You're being gaslit. You're being gaslit into becoming the latest tourist mecca trademark, incorporated, with no fucking house and no fucking job. Your pension not making mounting to shit. If you've got no people with job, or people with job can't afford house, how are they going to be fucking goddamn contributing to economy so people can get pension? This is a, and with people with pension, all their money gets spent. So I go back in a circle, do it. Okay? These things, they don't add up. They are creating a situation, not just Lismore, but other places, where, just like that person said, Byron Bay, which used to have a bit more variety, become Tourist Mecca Incorporated for multi-million-dollar celebrities, right? Okay, and they're doing it like that. Everywhere they've earmarked as Tourist Mecca is where they're going to do it to. And maybe for retirees with the upwardly socially mobile people with debts, okay? That's where it's going. Where's everyone else going to live? Okay, at the moment, an increasing number of people in Australia are in tent cities. Don't bother helping the people in tent cities, they're on drugs. Actually, most of them aren't. And some of them get threatened by people on drugs. So, I'll ask you a question. And even if they were on drugs, why aren't they in rehab? Don't we have a great healthcare system in Australia? Isn't it the envy of the United States? Well, where's their rehab? You know, back in the 1990s, Juice Media, you've done something great here by pointing this out. It's a good reminder to Australians everywhere. Cranky song, Australia, don't become America, okay, from the 90s, okay? We already did. And the last nail in our coffin is the Clive Palmer's winning. Honest to goodness, Australia, just draw dicks on your fucking ballot. And then start squatting. Because there's literally hundreds of thousands of houses around the fucking continent that are empty and waiting to be gentrified and turned into Airbnbs. So squat. Because it's not like the banks, the real estate agents, or the Crown as legal to do a title to the land anyway. Just fucking take it.